Okay, we are back. I'm very happy to have on the Goldstein on Gelt Show Ira Kasdan and Beth Johnson from Kelley Drye down in Washington, D.C. Ira is a partner there. Beth is a senior litigation associate, and they've been working on what is now called the Greenberg Settlement. Real pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to be here.
So the mysterious Greenberg Settlement, tell us what it's about and what led to it.
Well, the Greenberg Settlement is an agreement that we have with the Social Security Administration not to reduce benefits to retirees who have been receiving old age benefits from the National Insurance Institute of Israel, or better known as Bituach Leumi. And the agreement came about because we filed a class action lawsuit against the agency to rectify what had been an erroneous policy that they had been using for the last 10 or more years. We brought a case very similar to this one about 10 years ago on a pro bono basis for an individual. His name is Jerome Berger. And at that time, the agency had agreed to change its policy and not to reduce benefits as a result of people receiving Bituach Leumi. And they actually agreed to do that in writing. Unfortunately, they continued to apply this mistaken policy, so we had to sue them again. We were very fortunate to have been contacted by Rabbi Ephraim Greenberg, who lives in Israel, and he agreed to act as a plaintiff in the case on behalf of others who are affected by this bad policy. We chose this time to sue as a class action as opposed to just for him as an individual in order for the agency to correct its policy and have it apply uniformly to everybody.
So let me clarify. The policy you're referring to is something called WEP, the Windfall Elimination Provision, which is supposed to stop someone from getting a windfall, meaning if he gets a foreign pension, then he shouldn't get his full Social Security. So why did that not apply in this case?
So the gist of WEP, which as you said is a windfall elimination provision, is a provision that essentially levels the playing field. So someone who is a low wage earner basically gets back a higher percentage of his contributions into Social Security in retirement versus someone who was a higher wage earner gets back a lower percentage. So the gist of WEP is that someone who works in a system where their payments into a retirement system are not being covered by Social Security and is getting a pension that's not covered by Social Security views that as a windfall to that person. Now, there are a lot of countries in which the retirement system is based on a person's earnings and employment, and that's what under U.S. law, the windfall elimination provision is limited to. So Social Security had been operating under the assumption for years that old age benefits from NII were a pension essentially based on employment. Our argument in this case, and one that ultimately the Social Security Administration agreed with, is that old age benefits through NII are not based on earnings and employment. They're available to people in Israel regardless of whether the person worked or didn't work or how much they made or paid into the system.
So there's no relationship between how many years you pay in and how much you earn with how much you ultimately get out?
The eligibility for NII old age benefits is based on a residency requirement and a certain number of contributions, but it's not based on the amount of those contributions.
And that's the definition of a foreign pension?
Under the statute, the language is basically a pension that is based on earnings and employment. So our argument was because what is ultimately paid out under NII is not based on the amount put in, that it doesn't count as it's not necessarily a foreign pension, but as a pension based on earnings and employment.
Well, the key here was that Bituach Leumi is not really a pension. It's an old age benefit that people get regardless of whether or not they worked. And that was the convincing argument that the agency recognized and therefore is not going to be applying the WEP anymore to Bituach Leumi.
Wow. Is that happen in other countries as well, or is Israel special?
There are other countries that have a retirement system where payments are not based on earnings and employment, but they're the minority. The vast majority, including the U.S., obviously, you pay into the Social Security system based on whatever your earnings are. There are systems or countries rather that have a two-tiered system. So it's partially based on your earnings and partially based on residency and other factors. So Social Security has, sort of a three-tiered system. They say there's countries where it's not based on work at all. There's countries where it's completely based on work, and then there are countries where it's two-tiered. It's partially based on work.
We're talking with Ira Kasdan and Beth Johnson, lawyers at Kelley Drye in Washington, D.C., who brought a class action lawsuit representing Rabbi Greenberg and many, many other Americans who have moved to Israel, claiming that because they were receiving Bituach Leumi, their Social Security payments were erroneously made smaller, and as a result of this, they've actually made a huge amount of money for people who now are going to be able to collect their full Social Security. So the question is, as a result of this decision, for years, many people have had their Social Security payments cut. Can they go back and get the money that they weren't paid?
So under the agreement, there are two benefits for people. First of all, going forward, Social Security Administration will no longer reduce benefits due to people receiving Bituach Leumi. But under the agreement as well, they are willing to pay back people who have been erroneously reduced all the way back to September 4th of 2004. And so people will be able to get their past due benefits back to that time if they participate in this lawsuit.
And do they have to do anything, or will they just get a big check one day?
Well, they have to put in a review request form. They have to complete that form and send that to the Social Security Administration. SSA then will contact them to confirm that they are recipients of Bituach Leumi, but they will also be asked whether or not they are receiving actual pension money as well. And obviously they've got to reply to that question. And once Social Security has all the information, they'll go back, review all the files, and they'll recalculate the benefits that people should be getting.
Does this apply if someone has already passed away? Can his estate apply?
Yes. Personal representatives of the estate can send in the form, and they'll get the same review for people who have passed away, and ultimately the money goes to the heirs.
So
I'll just jump in. Oh,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. One clarification is that the agency has agreed to pay past due benefits back to 2004. That includes anyone who started receiving benefits even after that date. So anytime someone has received a benefit between 2004 and the present, they are potentially eligible for this settlement.
Mm-hmm. So let's go into a little more of what you said, which is this seems to only be applying, or this benefit to people receiving Bituach Leumi. A lot of people, let's give the example of someone who worked in America for 20 or 30 years, then moved to Israel and worked here, and has both a work pension, which would be called often Bituach Minahalim, as well as Bituach Leumi. So let's put aside the Bituach Leumi, the national insurance. How does that work pension affect his Social Security payments?
Well, the work pension will affect the calculation that the Social Security Administration will make in determining what the appropriate benefits are. There are certain foreign pensions that SSA is aware of in Israel that will affect the calculation, such as the Hadassah hospital pension, the Miftachim pension, Makefet pension, Keren Hishtamlut pension, something called manager's pension as well. So those people who do receive those pensions will not automatically have their benefits increased, so to speak. Once they do contact Social Security and they confirm that they have Bituach Leumi and also these additional pensions, there will be another calculation that the agency will be making to determine what the final appropriate amount these people should get.
So just to clarify, those other pensions you mentioned, like Hadassah Hospital, those would subject a person to WEP, so his Social Security would be lowered. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, so one of the things I just want to mention to our listeners is that this calculation is something that people can do on their own. The Social Security Administration has a calculator on their website that allows you to calculate the windfall elimination provision. And in fact, there's a video that people can take, a free webinar based on a book that I had written at the website expatguidetomoney.com. And you can sign up there for a webinar that simply explains how to use that online calculator because, in fact, it is a little bit tricky to use. Let me just dive in a little bit further on the issue of other pensions as well as the Social Security. If someone is looking to make Aliyah now, sometimes people say, well, if you're going to claim your Social Security, or you should either claim it in the United States or in Israel. Does it matter when someone is getting set up? Should he make plans one way or the other, or it just doesn't make a difference where you are?
Well, that's a difficult question for us to answer, but we are aware of a lot of people who have set up the receipt of their Social Security Administration benefits in the United States. I could tell you from this case that the mail system necessarily is not great coming over from the United States to Israel or from Israel to the United States. So it might be advisable for people to make sure that they get their checks in the United States or directly deposited in bank accounts here in the States.
But there's no ultimate difference in the amount. I'm sorry, I should phrase this as a question. Is there a difference in the amount you'll ultimately get depending on where you actually file? If you fill out the forms in Israel at the consulate, or if you file in a U.S. Social Security office?
Again, we're not tax attorneys, and we're not specialists necessarily in SSA benefits. I would presume that it should be the same. But that's beyond our ken, beyond this case, actually.
All right. Well, this is quite an amazing case, and we're just about out of time. But I just want to stress that the work that Ira Kasdan and Beth Johnson at Kelley Drye have done in bringing this class action lawsuit will dramatically change the amount of money that a lot of people will be getting from Social Security. So it's important that people learn more about it, make sure that they find out whether it's appropriate for them to participate. And so in the last few seconds, just tell us, how can our listeners follow you, follow your work, and make sure that they get all the benefits from the work that you thankfully have done?
Well, they could email us. We've set up a special email address for the case. It's SSA case, CASE, at kelleydrye.com. Kelley Drye is KELLEYDRYE.com. Again, SSA case at kelleydrye.com. That's one way they can contact us. We have a special phone number as well for the case. It's 202-945-6611 here in the States. And in general, they can find a wealth of information about the case. If they go on to the Social Security Administration site, there's a special website that was set up just for this case, and that could be found at www.ssa.gov/Greenberg, Greenberg. That's lowercase g. And you'll find all the information you really need to know about this case.
Okay, and we will put links to all of that at the show notes of today's show at goldsteinongelt.com. Beth Johnson, Ira Kasdan at Kelley Drye, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having us.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.